everyone, it's Sarah. Time to talk microscopic colitis, and yes, my hair is pink. I look like a human highlighter, and I'm also wearing no makeup. And my skin's breaking out, and I have a cold sore, and super fun. But that's not what we're here to talk about today, though the hair is a big mood brightener. Okay, microscopic colitis. I have an update, which is exciting. I also would like to make a video about my supplements. That has not happened yet, so maybe next week we'll talk supplements. But as I alluded to, end of last year, I did a bunch of tests to see what else was going on with my body. Long story short, even though it was flaring, I felt like I had some different symptoms, and the goal was to clear some of those up. So we'll start with the scariest one, which is the pancreas. If you know anything about the pancreas, don't want anything wrong with the pancreas. So good news is my pancreas has tested normal. So they look at for pancreatic enzymes. So that came back good, negative, great. And related to that, I also got an ultrasound, an abdominal ultrasound. And that was primarily to check the gallbladder. But you can also obviously see the spleen, the pancreas, the kidneys, the liver, everything else. They don't say it, but obviously they're checking for masses in the abdomen. You can't really check the intestines with an ultrasound just due to the presence of air, but we already know that's a challenge. So the good news is no gallstones. My gallbladder looks normal. My pancreas looks normal. Everything looks normal. I forgot I have a cyst on my spleen. I knew this. I found this out about 10 years ago when I had some abdominal pain and had gotten an ultrasound. It's benign. It's in the same spot. Cyst. It sounds really scary, but it's just like a fluid-filled sac that's in my spleen. Hasn't moved. Looks exactly the same. So in some ways, obviously I didn't want anything to be wrong with the gallbladder, but something like gallstones would be treatable and easily explainable. So 2 out of 3, pancreas fine, gallbladder fine, no other red flags in the ultrasound. And then we come to SIBO. So SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. I was pretty sure that I had it. I had no idea what this was. My primary care physician and my dietitian, registered dietitian, recommended looking into SIBO. And I had a lot of the symptoms. They're very different than colitis symptoms. It's things like bloating right after meals, feeling really full, a little bit of nausea, just some things that were different than traditional colitis symptoms. That being said, who knows? Symptoms are kind of all over the map. So because of COVID, I got an at-home test version to do instead of doing it in an office, which is great. I think office should be for procedures that have to be done in the office. And me being me and having anxiety, I watched a lot of videos and try to understand how to do this correctly because it's kind of a funky test. So long story short, the day before the test, you eat a very limited diet. So I had plain rice and plain chicken. That was it all day. And then you have a 12-hour fast. 2 hours before the test, you have to wake up and brush your teeth. So very early in the morning, I woke up, brush my teeth. Then you have to get up an hour before the test, and then the test starts. So you start by, it's a breath test. So there's this funky little device, and you have little glass test tubes, and you exhale into this device. Is a little bit, it's a plastic bag. You exhale into this bag, and there's a little offshoot from the bag where you stick the test tube in. And it's weird, you puncture it. It's not a needle. There's a membrane that covers the test tube, and then you blow into it. So I have to be honest, I still don't fully understand how this works, because to me, I was doing exactly what I was saying, and I was, fully putting the test tube into the device, and I still didn't understand how this was collecting anything. We'll get to that in a minute. So you take a baseline breath test, and then you drink the drink. I had heard about this drink. No, it's not as bad as what you drink for a colonoscopy, although there's different versions of that. So don't listen to everything that you hear. I should do a colonoscopy video someday. Not today. Maybe the next time I get one. Not a video of the colonoscopy, talking about prep and how to make it as pleasant as it can be, because it's not pleasant. Anyway, focus. SIBO test. So you get this huge packet of glucose, so sugar, and then you dissolve it in exactly 1 cup of water, and then you have 3 minutes to chug this thing. It is so gross. And I've had some weird stuff. The cholestyramine, the whole thing of Miralax for the prep. This was just disgusting. It tastes disgusting. Someone said, oh, it tastes like flat soda. No, this was disgusting. So you chug this thing, and then you take I'm reading every 20 minutes for 3 hours. So it's a breath test. You can't do anything. You just have to basically sit and do nothing, eat nothing, don't exercise. And every 20 minutes, your alarm goes off and you go and you blow into a test tube. SIBO is positive if you test for, if you can see within the first 90 minutes, so it's a 3-hour test, first half of the test, if you have a spike in hydrogen, the methane, or the hydrogen sulfide. We'll get to why this is problematic in a second, or what's problematic about this in a second. So you do this on an empty stomach, you have nothing else in the system. 15 to 20 minutes in, I blew up like a balloon. And why is that? Well, because the bacteria are at that point in my gut where they're going crazy. And it was so incredibly painful. And not just the test was painful, but the next couple of days were just, everything was wonky in my gut. Really unpleasant. And this is just a more extreme reaction to what normally happens, because in a normal meal, you have fiber and fat and protein. And I try not to just eat straight carbs. And this is the straightest glucose, pure glucose drink. So 20, 30 minutes in, I thought, well, obviously I have it. I took a picture of it. I look 6 months pregnant. That's how distended my stomach was. But you have to keep doing the test. I kept doing the test, and every 20 minutes I would blow into the tubes. And I thought, well, this is a slam dunk. So wrapped up my tubes, took it down to the office or the lab, and waited. And then a week passed, and I got a note from Dr. B, my gastroenterologist, and the result was negative, no signs of SIBO. And my face was this. There was no way. There was no way, and my husband, who reads medical papers for fun, because that's who he is, had said, first of all, that's where I learned 90 minutes is when in the first 90 minutes, you have to react. So it was like 20 minutes, full reaction, severe SIBO. Then here's some other things that are interesting. It has a 30 to 40% false negative rate, this test. 30 to 40% false negative. What? And I actually don't know. So I mentioned they can test for hydrogen. They can test for methane, hydrogen sulfide. There is no test for hydrogen sulfide. So bacteria that produce that, you can't even test it. And I don't know if the glucose drink, which is what I had, tests hydrogen, methane, or both. I'm actually not sure. Anyway, I was in shock. And I had sent a note to my dietitian after I took the test and said, this is what happened. And she's like, oh yeah, you totally have it. It was super obvious to her. Like, that's the reaction for SIBO. And so I sent a note back to my gastroenterologist, and I explained. I said, I don't understand. What else could it be? And he had named a couple other things, but I just thought none of these make any sense, especially given the fact that, well, now all these other tests have come back negative. So I had this feeling of, well, what do we do now? And he had said back and forth over a message, because this poor doctor, a lot of doctors are just overworked right now because staffing is low and people put off critical things because of the pandemic. Long story short, they're going to treat it anyway. So I am going to get the treatment for SIBO. He trusts me, it sounds like, and if it's not SIBO, the consequences aren't necessarily huge. So this means antibiotics. But here's the tricky part. Here's where I am now. I do not have the antibiotics because the course that I need to take is $2,000 to $3,000 for a course of antibiotics. These are very special antibiotics. There's no generic. So I'm waiting to hear if my insurance will approve this. Now, if I had a positive SIBO test, pretty straightforward. do not have a positive SIBO test. Forget the fact that 30 to 40% of negatives are false negatives. I got nothing. So, interestingly, I live in Washington State. People in Washington State might know we're not that far from Canada. So, my doctor works at a pharmacy in Canada. In Canada, there's a generic. So, for a couple $100, if my insurance doesn't cover it, I can have these lovely Canadian people will take my American prescription and will ship me the antibiotic. So I'm in a holding pattern right now, waiting to get these antibiotics. There are many antibiotics that can be used to treat SIBO. These are obviously the fancier ones. Well, not fancier ones. These are the most up-to-date ones. But bacteria don't respond equally to all antibiotics. It could mean more than one course. I now have to figure out the probiotic course to support that. Antibiotics can just, I mean, my gut's already messed up, but it could get worse before it gets better. So that's where I'm at now, waiting to get my antibiotics inside that course. I don't know what happens after this. The other theory was, so there's 3 working theories. There's multiple theories. Theory 1, it's just microscopic colitis and the treatment's not working. I actually don't think that's the case. Mesalamine, I got a lot better on the mesalamine, but one avenue to pursue could be to try infusions or, wow, completely just like blank on the other immunosuppressants or infusions. That's where we would go if we just treat colitis. If we're treating the SIBO, it's antibiotics. If the insurance won't cover one, it's probably not going to cover any of them. Some of them, there are generics here in the US, so they're pretty cheap. Happy to pay out of pocket for that. For the ones that are probably more effective, I'll have to order through Canada. Thanks, American system. I love you. Third theory is it's IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Don't get me started on how gastroenterologists, some of them look at IBS and think it's fake, it's made up. I can tell you someone who had IBS, not fake, not made up. And no, it's not just a little bit of bloating and discomfort. So there are prescription medications specifically for women who have IBS. One of the ones that had a lot of promise was just pulled from the market, unfortunately, for some really nasty side effects. But there are some options. Another thing related to all this would be more diagnostics. So could be another colonoscopy or an endoscopy, which again, obviously not looking forward to either, or it could be refer out. So my next appointment's until March. Hopefully by then, as soon as I could get in, hopefully by then I'll be through my course and we'll see, did that help with SIBO? SIBO unfortunately recurs. It's pretty common that people get it again if you have it. So the other thing, which we're still not at, is what's underlying that. So that's where I am. I have one more medical story to tell, and that's my latest blood draw. So I was sharing with y'all how I was really excited that there were people who would come to your house and draw your blood. I don't like leaving the house. I don't like people. I really don't like going to LabCorp or whatever your local stick you in the arm places. So I thought, great. And the Vibrant America, which is the company that's done my microbiome and is also doing this micronutrient panel, have very specific procedures, specific vials, have to be shipped in a certain way. So my registered dietitian, had given me a list of clinics and a couple people who actually come to your house and draw your blood. So I had thought, especially given the pandemic, this would be great just to have somebody come and draw my blood. Also, if it's fast to draw, you don't have to leave the house early in the morning. If you know me, I'm not a morning person. Set up with this lady, super nice, super chit-chatty, very flexible, and then she showed up. She was in her scrubs, she had her bag and everything. And do you ever know when you have this moment and you think something, I don't know, you're this little teeny piece of your intuition is like, what? She wasn't wearing a mask. And I wasn't wearing a mask because I'm in my own house. And so I was like, okay, whatever, she's a medical lady. I'm vax boosted. And so she came in, she was super nice, filled out the forms. And she was just reviewing everything that we were drawing and why and whatnot. And so then I went to lay down on the couch for the blood draw because I'm a fainter. And we'd been chit-chatting about animals because she could see, oh, you have a cat, and she had a cat and a dog. And then she'd asked, what do I do for a living? And I gave the answer, which I give when I don't want to talk about what I do for a living, which I said I'm in HR. That normally shuts people down because people don't care. So if I'm next to you in a plane and I say I work in HR, it's because I want to talk. I never say the company that I work for a whole bunch of reasons that I won't get into. And for most people, I don't explain that I'm an executive coach or that I do organizational development consulting. First of all, I don't know, I've got to really be interested in having the conversation. Anyway, HR normally shuts it down. And then I had said, oh yeah, HR, and that I really love my team and working with people, and I miss hanging out with them. And she said, I kid you not, oh, because of the plandemic. Now, just so you know, I have a needle in my arm right now. I'm trying to breathe, and I'm talking because this is what I do when I get shots or blood draws, distract myself. So my head is turned this way. My left arm, we have a needle. She's getting 8 vials of blood from my arm. And I thought, oh shit, I'm going to get COVID. Sorry for the language. But at that moment, I was like, I've got COVID now. And she had also been going on about, she had a friend who was in the medical field, and she said, oh, now's a great time. This friend lost her job in the fall. I wonder where that would be. And had said, oh, this, working in boutique is really great. And I was like, oh my God, this lady's not back. She thinks this is all fake. And now I have COVID. So at that point in time, I have control issues, as you might imagine. I just let it go. And I was like, not worth it. Also, she has to go process my blood before it goes. So I was just super chatty and thank you and da-da-da-da. Off she went with my blood. And so then I told my husband, I was like, I think I just got COVID. I will tell you now, it's been 2 weeks, week and a half. I have tested multiple times. I do not have COVID, or it is not showing up in tests. Don't at me on this. I know the tests aren't perfect. We do have an at-home testing machine. Feel fine, no symptoms, haven't tested. So maybe I got lucky, or maybe she's vaxxed and just oh my gosh, if you're in the medical profession and you're going around to people's houses in Seattle, in the Seattle area, even if you believe that, why would you say anything about it? Anyway, so I'll be giving my dietitian some feedback when we meet next week about that whole situation. So why did I tell you that? Because that was interesting. And also I don't have COVID yet, I think. But that when I do my next video, I'm going to talk about supplements, and I'm also talk about micronutrients, because this was a micronutrient blood draw, because the theory is my body's probably not absorbing everything it needs to be absorbing. So getting some clues on what my actual levels are in these things is going to be helpful. Okay, this was longer than I thought, but hello, those are my videos. Microscopic colitis. This is a journey. Thanks for listening, y'all, and I am kind of excited to talk about the wild and wacky world of supplements as I learn about it. All right, everyone. Y'all be safe and be well. Bye.